The massive Empire scout ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, its dark metal hull reflecting the distant sunlight. Inside the United Earth Defense Command Center, red alerts flashed across every screen. Admiral James stood before the main display, his weathered face illuminated by the emergency lights. "Sir, the alien vessel is 3 times larger than our biggest ship," reported Lieutenant Tom from his station. His fingers flew across the holographic controls, bringing up detailed scans of the visitor. Admiral James nodded calmly. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades. "Open all channels. Let's say hello to our new friends." The Empire ship's response came quickly. A towering figure appeared on the main screen, its metallic skin gleaming under bright lights. Lord Vex, as he called himself, looked down at the humans with 4 glowing eyes. Primitive species, Lord Vex spoke in perfect English, thanks to their advanced translation systems. "The Galactic Empire claims this system. Submit to our rule or face extinction. You have 1 Earth hour to decide." Admiral James straightened his blue uniform. After 30 years of military service, he knew when someone was making a terrible mistake. "Lord Vex, with all respect, I suggest you check your historical records about humans." "Historical records?" Lord Vex laughed, the sound echoing through the command center. "What could we possibly learn from a species that barely reached its moon?" "We've spent most of our history fighting each other," Admiral James explained patiently. "We've become very, very good at war. This isn't a threat. It's a friendly warning." The alien lord's upper eyes blinked. "You dare to lecture the Empire about war? We have conquered 10,000 worlds." "Yes," Admiral James replied, "but you've never conquered humans before." He pressed a button, sending data packets to the Empire ship. "These are records of our world wars, our weapons, our tactics. Please study them carefully." Lord Vex glanced at something off-screen, presumably reviewing the data. His expression changed slightly. "Interesting. You kill your own kind with such creativity. But these are ancient battles. Your weapons are toys compared to our energy cannons." "That's not the point," Admiral James said. "The point is that humans never stop fighting. We never give up. We adapt. We overcome. And we've had 70 years to prepare for meeting aliens." Warning lights suddenly flashed on Lord Vex's ship. One of his officers whispered something in his ear. The alien lord's eyes widened slightly. "Impossible," Lord Vex muttered. "Our scans show hidden structures throughout your system. Weapons platforms disguised as debris." Admiral James allowed himself a small smile. "Like I said, we've been preparing. Those platforms are just the obvious ones we let you find. Earth has faced extinction-level threats before. We survived. We learned. We got ready. You cannot hope to match our technology," Lord Vex declared, but there was a note of uncertainty in his voice. "Maybe not," Admiral James agreed. "But we don't need to match it. We just need to survive your first attack. After that, we'll learn. We'll adapt. We'll turn your own weapons against you. That's what humans do." Lord Vex stood silent for a long moment. "You speak as if war with the Empire is already decided." "That's up to you," Admiral James replied. "We're happy to be friends, trade partners, allies, even. But if you force this fight—" He paused, making sure he had the alien lord's full attention. "Well, then we'll show you why every human child learns about the art of war in school." The Empire lord's lower eyes narrowed. "You have spirit, human. The Empire will consider your warning." The transmission cut off abruptly. Lieutenant Tom looked up from his station. "Sir, the Empire ship is moving back. They're keeping their weapons powered down." Admiral James nodded slowly. "Good. They're taking time to think. Send word to all our forces. Stay hidden but ready. The real test comes next." He turned to look at the massive screen showing Earth, beautiful and blue, surrounded by its invisible network of defenses. Humanity's home had survived ice ages, dinosaur-killing asteroids, and its own nuclear weapons. Now it faced its greatest challenge yet. "They'll be back," Admiral James said quietly. "And next time, they'll bring an army. Let's make sure we're ready to teach them why picking a fight with humans is a very, very bad idea." 3 days after the first contact, the Empire returned. Not with one ship, but with 200 massive warships that turned the space around Mars into a forest of metal. Each ship was bigger than anything humans had ever built, their hulls gleaming with strange symbols and powerful weapons. In the Earth Defense Command Center, Admiral James watched the enemy fleet with calm eyes. Around him, officers worked at their stations, their movements quick but controlled. No one showed fear. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. "Enemy fleet holding position near Mars," Lieutenant Tom reported. "They're forming an attack pattern we've never seen before. It's beautiful, actually." "Beauty won't save them," Admiral James said. He pressed a button on his chair. "All stations, report status." The reports came in one by one. Luna Base was ready. The Mars defense ring was armed. The asteroid belt batteries were charged. Every hidden weapon system humanity had built over the last 70 years was awake and waiting. The main screen lit up. Lord Vex appeared, now wearing what looked like battle armor. Behind him, other Empire officers moved quickly across their bridge. "This is your last chance," Lord Vex announced. "The Empire's main conquest fleet stands ready. Submit now, and we will be merciful." Admiral James smiled slightly. "You still haven't read our history books, have you?" "We reviewed your primitive battles," Lord Vex said. "Amusing, but meaningless. Look at our fleet. Each ship carries enough power to boil your oceans. You cannot win." "Winning isn't everything," Admiral James replied. "Sometimes surviving is enough. Computer, show the civilian evacuation status." A blue hologram appeared, showing thousands of dots moving away from Earth. "As you can see," Admiral James continued, "we're moving our people to safety. Not because we're afraid, but because humans learned long ago to protect our civilians. It lets our military fight without holding back." Lord Vex's upper eyes narrowed. "You think you can fight us? Your weapons are physical projectiles and chemical explosives. We have energy shields and plasma cannons." "True," Admiral James nodded. "Your technology is amazing. But tell me, Lord Vex, have you ever fought an enemy who turned their entire solar system into a weapon?" Before the Empire Lord could answer, Lieutenant Tom called out, "Sir, they're launching fighters. Thousands of them." The space between Mars and Earth filled with small, fast Empire ships. They moved like schools of fish, beautiful and deadly. The Empire fleet began to advance, their massive engines pushing them toward Earth. Admiral James stood up. "Activate the defense grid. All units, prepare for combat. And someone get me a cup of coffee. This might take a while." Across the solar system, hidden weapons platforms came to life. Asteroids that weren't really asteroids opened to reveal massive gun barrels. Abandoned space stations transformed into missile launchers. Even old satellites suddenly showed their true purpose as weapon guidance systems. Lord Vex's eyes widened as his sensors registered the changes. "Impossible. You turned your entire system into a trap." "We had time," Admiral James said simply. "And humans are very, very good at preparing for a fight." He looked directly at the Empire Lord. "Last chance, Vex. Turn around. Go home. Tell your Empire that Earth isn't worth the cost." The Empire Lord's face hardened. "The Empire does not retreat. All ships, open fire. Show these primitives the power of true civilization." The Empire fleet lit up like a new sun as energy weapons charged. Their fighters accelerated, ready to strike Earth's defenses. It was an overwhelming display of power that would have conquered 1,000 other worlds. But this was Earth, and humans had learned from every war they'd ever fought. Admiral James watched the enemy approach. his face calm. He thought about all the battles in human history, all the lessons learned in blood and fire. The Empire was about to learn those same lessons. All units, he said quietly, execute Operation Thunderstrike. Let's show them how humans fight. Across the solar system, humanity's defenses came alive. The greatest battle in Earth's history was about to begin, and the Empire was about to learn why humans had warned them to run. The Empire's energy weapons lit up space like 1,000 suns, beautiful beams of light, each powerful enough to destroy a city, streaked toward Earth's defenses. Lord Vex watched from his command ship, expecting to see the primitive human defenses melt away. Instead, he watched in shock as most of the beams hit nothing at all. "Impossible," he shouted. "Where are their defense stations?" In the Earth Defense Command Center, Admiral James allowed himself a small smile. "You see, Vex, we learned something from watching old war movies. Sometimes the best defense isn't a shield. It's making the enemy shoot at things that aren't really there." The human defense platforms were using simple hologram technology, creating thousands of fake targets. The Empire's advanced weapons were hitting empty space, while the real weapons platforms remained hidden. Lieutenant Tom's voice was steady as he reported, "All units confirm ready, Admiral. The Empire fleet is now within optimal range." Admiral James nodded. "Begin Operation Sledgehammer." Across the solar system, hidden railgun platforms powered up. These weren't the primitive weapons the Empire expected. Each one used magnetic fields to launch specially designed projectiles at speeds approaching 1% of light speed. They weren't as advanced as Empire energy weapons, but they had one big advantage. They were nearly impossible to detect until they hit. The first volley caught the Empire completely by surprise. Their energy shields, designed to stop plasma and laser weapons, struggled against simple metal moving at relativistic speeds. 20 Empire ships exploded in the first second of combat. What are they using?" Lord Vex demanded, watching his fleet's shields fail one after another. "These are just pieces of metal. Kinetic energy is kinetic energy," Admiral James replied calmly over the communication channel. "Your shields stop energy weapons beautifully, but how are they at stopping 20 tons of tungsten moving at 3,000 kilometers per second? More Empire ships exploded as the railgun barrage continued. Their fighters, designed for energy combat, found themselves flying through clouds of specially designed space debris. The Empire's beautiful formation broke apart as ships tried to dodge attacks they could barely see coming. "Sir," Lieutenant Tom called out, "Empire fleet is launching missiles. Lots of missiles." Admiral James watched the tactical display. The Empire missiles were impressive, each one carrying enough power to destroy a continent. But humanity had been preparing for this too. "Launch the interceptors," he ordered. Small, unmanned drones shot out from hidden bays across the solar system. These were some of humanity's newest weapons, artificial intelligence-controlled spacecraft designed to do one thing: protect Earth. They swarmed around the Empire missiles like angry bees, using small directed charges to knock them off course. Lord Vex watched in growing horror as his fleet's mighty weapons were countered by what looked like toys. "This is not possible. We are the Empire. We have conquered thousands of worlds." Yes, Admiral James agreed, but how many of those worlds spent their entire history fighting themselves? How many had already mastered the art of war before you arrived? Another wave of railgun fire struck the Empire fleet. This time, their ships started taking evasive action, but it was too late. Their tight formation, perfect for energy weapon combat, made them easy targets for human weapons. "My lord," an Empire officer reported, his voice shaking, "we've lost 40% of the fleet. Our shields, they're not designed for this type of attack." Lord Vex gripped his command chair as his own ship shuddered from a near miss. "Order all ships to retreat, fall back beyond their weapon range." But retreating wasn't as easy as advancing. The human weapons platforms had been carefully positioned throughout the solar system. There was no safe direction to run. In the Earth Command Center, Admiral James watched the Empire fleet break apart. "Hold fire," he ordered. "Let them retreat." Lieutenant Tom looked surprised. "Sir, we could destroy their entire fleet." "We could," James agreed, "but that's not the point of this battle. The point is to teach them something." He opened a channel to the retreating Empire fleet. "Lord Vex, do you understand now? This was just our first line of defense. We haven't even shown you our real weapons yet." The Empire Lord's response was only static as his damaged fleet limped away from Earth. But the message had been sent. Humanity wasn't just another primitive species to be conquered. They were something the Empire had never faced before. An enemy that had mastered the art of war long before reaching the stars. 2 hours after the Empire's retreat, Admiral James called his most secret weapon into action. Deep beneath the surface of Europa, Jupiter's ice moon, a hidden base activated. Inside were ships unlike anything the Empire had ever seen, or rather, ships they couldn't see at all. "Ghost Fleet, you are cleared to launch," Admiral James said into his secure channel. "Show them why humans don't fight fair." The ships that rose from Europa's icy surface looked strange. Their hulls were covered in materials that absorbed light and radar. Their engines left no heat trail. They were humanity's stealth ships, designed after decades of studying captured pieces of Empire technology. In his damaged command ship, Lord Vex was trying to reorganize his fleet. "Status report," he demanded. "My lord, we've lost 60 ships," his officer reported. "Our shields are still not responding well to their kinetic weapons, but at least we're out of their range now." Lord Vex nodded. "Good. Prepare the second wave. This time we'll—" "My lord," another officer shouted. "Ships are disappearing from our fleet." The Empire fleet's formation suddenly erupted in chaos. Human stealth ships, completely invisible to Empire sensors, were attacking from point-blank range. They carried stolen Empire weapons, modified and improved by human engineers. "How?" Lord Vex roared. "How are they here? We can't detect them." Admiral James's voice came over their communications. "You see, Vex, humans learned guerrilla warfare thousands of years ago. Hit the enemy where they don't expect you. Use their own weapons against them. Never fight fair when you can fight smart." The Ghost Fleet moved like shadows through the Empire formation. Their stolen weapons knew exactly where to hit the Empire ships' weak points. More importantly, the human pilots had trained for years in zero-gravity combat, while the Empire relied heavily on computer targeting. "Sir," Lieutenant Tom reported in the Earth Command Center, "Ghost Fleet reports 30 more Empire ships disabled. They're studying their technology as they fight." Admiral James nodded. This was another human trick, learning and adapting during battle. Each disabled Empire ship was a treasure trove of new technology to study and improve upon. "Send in the Wasps," he ordered. Small craft, barely bigger than spacesuits, launched from the Ghost Fleet ships. These were the Wasps, single-pilot vessels designed to slip through Empire shields and attach to their hulls. Once attached, they began drilling, letting specially trained boarding teams enter the Empire ships. Lord Vex watched in horror as his own ships began firing on each other. "They're taking control of our vessels." "How?" "Our computer security is perfect." "Computers are logical," Admiral James replied. "Humans aren't. We think creatively, adapt quickly, and most importantly, we learn from our enemies." The Empire fleet was now in complete chaos. Ships vanished from sensors only to reappear under human control. The Ghost Fleet struck from impossible angles, using modified Empire weapons in ways their creators never imagined. "My lord," an Empire officer said, his voice shaking, "we're detecting more human ships rising from Mars and Venus. They're using our own jump drive technology." Lord Vex slumped in his command chair. In just one day of combat, the humans had not only countered Empire technology, but had started using it themselves. His mighty fleet was being taken apart by an enemy that didn't just fight. They learned, adapted, and improved during the battle itself. "Fall back," he ordered. "All ships, emergency jump to safe coordinates." But even retreat wasn't simple. The humans had studied Empire jump drive signatures. As Empire ships tried to escape, human weapons disrupted their jump fields, forcing them back into normal space. In the Earth Command Center, Admiral James watched the Empire fleet's destruction with a grim expression. "Humans spent centuries fighting each other," he said quietly. "We got very good at it. Too good, maybe. But it means we don't just know how to fight. We know how to win." Lieutenant Tom looked at his screens in amazement. "Sir, Ghost Fleet reports 60% of the Empire fleet either destroyed or captured. The rest are trapped and can't escape. Should we finish them?" Admiral James shook his head. "No. Leave them one path open. Let some escape." He smiled slightly. "After all, we need someone to carry our message back to the Empire." The message was clear. Humanity wasn't just another species to be conquered. They were the species that turned warfare into an art form, and the Empire had just become their newest student. The Empire's capital world was in chaos. On massive screens floating above the city, videos from the Earth battle played over and over. Empire citizens watched in horror as their unstoppable fleet was torn apart by what they had called a primitive species. In the Empire's main military academy, Professor Rex switched off the battle footage and faced his students. "This," he said, pointing to the blank screen, "is why we're holding an emergency session today." One student raised his hand. "Professor, I don't understand. They're just using simple physics, kinetic weapons, old technology. How do they defeat our best ships?" "That's exactly what we need to study," Rex replied. He pressed a button, and new images appeared, scenes from human history. These creatures have been fighting wars for their entire existence. Look at this. The images showed human battles through time, ancient armies with spears, medieval knights, World War tanks, modern soldiers. Each image showed different tactics, different weapons, different ways of fighting. In Earth's command center, Admiral James received an interesting report. "Sir," Lieutenant Tom said, "our spy satellites are picking up broadcasts from the Empire's worlds. They're studying us, really studying us." James smiled. "Good. Show them everything. Every battle, every war, every fight for survival. Let them learn." On another Empire world, a military commander watched footage of human guerrilla warfare tactics. "Fascinating," he muttered. "They don't just fight with weapons, they fight with their minds. They adapt. They improvise." The warning was spreading through the Empire like a virus. Reports showed Empire citizens watching human war documentaries with a mixture of horror and fascination. They saw how humans turned simple tools into weapons, how they used the environment as a weapon, how they never stopped thinking of new ways to fight. In the Empire's war room, Lord Vex faced the High Council. His armor was still damaged from the battle. "They're not just warriors," he explained. "They're innovators. During the battle, they were studying our technology, adapting it, improving it. They turned our own weapons against us in ways we never imagined." "But surely," one council member said, "they must have a weakness." "Their weakness?" Vex laughed bitterly. "Their weakness is that they're too good at war. They think of everything as a potential weapon. Even their entertainment, their movies and games, are about war and survival." More battle footage played behind him, showing how human ships had appeared from nowhere, using stealth technology the Empire had thought impossible. It showed human soldiers boarding Empire ships, defeating security systems that were supposed to be unbeatable. On Earth, Admiral James received another report. "Sir, we're detecting Empire communication satellites copying our entire military history. They're particularly interested in something called The Art of War by Sun Tzu." James nodded. "Send them everything. Let them see what happens when a species spends thousands of years preparing for threats from the stars. The Empire's military academies began emergency classes studying human warfare. They were shocked to discover humans had been imagining space battles for hundreds of years before they even reached space. They had thought of tactics and strategies the Empire had never considered. "Look at this," Professor Rex told his students, showing them human space combat theories from the 20th century. They were planning how to fight in space before they had ships that could reach their own moon. They imagined every possible way to fight among the stars. In the Empire's capital, fear began to spread. If humans could do this much damage with just their solar system's resources, what would they do with Empire technology? How dangerous would they become if the Empire continued to fight them? Admiral James watched all this through Earth's intelligence network. "Send them one more message," he ordered. Throughout Empire space, screens lit up with a simple transmission. It showed scenes from Earth's history, not just the wars, but the aftermath. How humans rebuilt after every conflict, how they grew stronger, how they learned from each defeat and victory. The message was clear. Humans didn't just know how to fight a war. They knew how to win a war. And more importantly, they knew how to become stronger from it. In the Empire's war room, Lord Vex watched the message with his fellow commanders. "Now you understand," he said quietly. "This is why they warned us to run." The Empire's Grand Council chamber had never seen such chaos. High-ranking officers argued loudly, their voices echoing off the ancient walls. On one side stood the Old Guard, led by Lord Vex, who wanted to gather an even larger fleet to crush Earth. On the other side, younger officers who had studied human warfare warned that attacking Earth again would be suicide. "We can't just let them exist," Lord Vex shouted, slamming his fist on the golden table. "They're already copying our technology. In a few years, they'll be stronger than us." Commander Ray, a younger officer who had analyzed every second of the Earth battle, stood up. "That's exactly why we should make peace. Every time we fight them, they learn. They adapt. They've already reverse-engineered our jump drives from the ships they captured." The council chamber's main screen showed new satellite images. Earth's defenses had grown stronger. Humans were already building new ships using a mix of their technology and stolen Empire designs. "My lords," a science officer reported, "we've detected human stealth ships near 3 of our core worlds. We don't know how long they've been there. We can't even track them properly." The news sent fresh waves of panic through the council. In just 1 week since the battle, humans had not only mastered Empire technology but improved it. Their stealth systems now worked better than any cloaking device the Empire had ever built. Lord Vex found himself removed from command. As he was led away, he muttered, "We should have listened. They warned us to run." In Earth's command center, Admiral James watched the Empire's internal crisis through their spy networks. Lieutenant Tom reported, "Sir, our agents confirm the Empire's military is splitting into 2 factions. The younger officers are actually studying our history, learning from it." James nodded. "Good. Sometimes the best way to win a war is to let your enemy learn why they shouldn't fight you in the first place." Back in the Empire's council chamber, Commander Ray presented his findings. "Look at human history," he said, pointing to the screen. "They turned their biggest enemies into allies after World War II. They learn from their opponents, adapt their strategies, and grow stronger. Fighting them again would only make them more dangerous." The council watched in silence as more reports came in. Human ships had been spotted near every major Empire world, not attacking, just watching, learning. Their presence was a clear message. Earth could strike anywhere, anytime. "There's something else," a young Empire analyst said. "We've been studying their entertainment, their movies, and books. For centuries, they've been imagining and planning for exactly this kind of war. They have thousands of stories about fighting alien empires. They'd been mentally preparing for this their entire existence." This revelation hit hard. The Empire had conquered species that were primitive, advanced, peaceful, and warlike. But they had never encountered a species that had spent its entire history imagining and preparing for space warfare. Commander Ray spoke again. Our analysis shows that in the first battle, the humans were holding back. They were testing our technology, learning our weaknesses. If we fight them again, they'll be ready with countermeasures for everything we have. In a secure bunker beneath the Empire capital, young officers secretly watched human war documentaries. They studied Earth's military history with growing respect. Terms like guerrilla warfare, asymmetric combat, and adaptive strategy entered Empire military language for the first time. Admiral James received another interesting report. Sir, we're detecting widespread changes in Empire military training. They're studying us, learning from us. James smiled. Then maybe some good will come from all this. Sometimes the best way to make peace is to show your enemy why war would be a mistake. The Empire Council finally reached a decision. The old guard was removed from power. Younger officers, those who understood the danger humans posed, took control of the military. Commander Ray, now promoted to High Commander, made the announcement. The Empire must change. We've encountered a species that doesn't just fight wars. They master them. We must learn from them, or we will fall to them. The message spread through the Empire. Humans weren't just another enemy to be conquered. They were a force of nature that had turned warfare into an art form, and the Empire had only seen a glimpse of their true capabilities. The peace conference was held in neutral space, halfway between Earth and the Empire's capital. The human delegation arrived in a new ship that combined Earth ingenuity with Empire technology. It was smaller than Empire ships, but more advanced, a reminder of how quickly humans could adapt and improve. Admiral James stood at the conference room window, watching Empire ships approach. Unlike their first meeting, the Empire vessels kept their weapons powered down. They had learned respect the hard way. High Commander Ray led the Empire delegation. As he entered the conference room, he bowed slightly to Admiral James, a gesture that would have been unthinkable just weeks ago. Before we begin, Ray said, I must know something. You could have destroyed our entire fleet. Why didn't you? James smiled. Because humans learned long ago that making an enemy into a friend is better than destroying them. We've had enough wars among ourselves to know this truth. The conference room's displays showed live feeds from both Earth and Empire worlds. Billions watched as the two powers met not as enemies, but as equals. We found your observation ships near every one of our major worlds, Ray said. You could have struck at any time. Yes, James nodded. But that wasn't the point. The point was to show you that we could. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to demonstrate why it would be unwinnable. Lieutenant Tom entered with reports from Earth's Defense Command. Sir, our analysis of Empire technology is complete. We've already found ways to improve their shield systems by 40%. Ray's eyes widened. Impossible. Our best scientists spent centuries developing those shields. That's the difference, James explained. Your people focused on perfecting one type of technology. Humans, we try everything. We experiment. We combine technologies in ways no one else thinks to try. It's how we survived our own wars. The peace treaty took shape over the next few hours. Earth would remain independent. The Empire would share their technology. And in return, humans would teach them about adaptation and innovation. There's one more thing, Ray said. Our young officers, they want to learn from your military academies. They've never seen warfare theory like yours. James considered this. Agreed. But in return, we want to learn about your peaceful achievements. Humans have had enough of war. We prepared for it because we had to, but we'd rather create than destroy. The conference room's mood changed. For the first time, both sides began discussing art, music, and science instead of weapons and tactics. Back on Earth, celebrations began as news of the peace treaty spread. Humans had faced their first major alien threat and emerged stronger. But more importantly, they had turned a potential enemy into an ally. In the Empire's military academy, Professor Rex unveiled a new course: Human Military History and Innovation. The first lesson began with a quote from Sun Tzu: "Supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting." This, Rex told his students, is what humans taught us. They didn't just show us new ways to fight. They showed us when not to fight. Admiral James made one final tour of the solar system's defenses before returning to Earth. The weapon platforms, hidden bases, and stealth ships had served their purpose. Now they would stand guard not against the Empire, but alongside it. "Sir," Lieutenant Tom said, "the Empire is already implementing some of our suggestions for their defense systems. They're learning quickly." "Good," James replied, "because there are more challenges out there in the galaxy. Better to face them with allies than enemies." The Empire added a new warning to their archives, but it was different from their original plan. Instead of warning others about humanity's war potential, it read, "Humans, a species that mastered the art of war so thoroughly that they learned the greatest victory is achieving peace. Treat with respect. Learn from them. And if they warn you to run, listen." As the conference ended, High Commander Ray asked one final question: "Did you really have more weapons we didn't see?" Admiral James looked at the stars through the window. "The deadliest weapon humans have isn't our guns or ships or tactics. It's our ability to learn, adapt, and overcome. We turned our entire history of warfare into an advantage. But now, perhaps, we can turn our talent for adaptation towards something better than war." The human ships departed for Earth, leaving behind not a conquered enemy, but a new ally. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had hoped for.